Greetings everyone. In this video I'll be sharing with you how you can make the upper bodice of this dress. If you have not watched the video aspect on how I made the flip part, I dropped the link in the description box. Just get to it and you can get straight to that. So let's get started. So I'll be using this pattern paper and I'm going to be drafting the upper bodice. Now this is my startup line and every measurement is expected to start immediately after my startup line. I'll just go ahead to draw another startup line on the side here. So my measurement will be starting immediately after this startup line. Because you are making an off shoulder, you are going to be using your client's neck depth. So for my neck depth, I'm going to be using 5 inches. So on that 5 inches, I'm going to place that 5 inches on my startup line because it's my neck depth and that is where my off shoulder or my tiny strap is going to be starting from. So I place my 5 inches there and I'm going to go ahead to measure my bust point, my under bust, and my half length, and I'll go ahead to connect these lines to the other side. So I'll go ahead to label this. This is my bust point, the under bust line, and here is the half length. So I'll go ahead to measure my bust span measurement divided by 2, and I'll go ahead to connect these points together. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be inserting my dart, and for my dart I'm going to be using 1.5 half inch to the front and 1 inch to the side. I'll mark that on my under bust as well, and I'm going to connect it to the bust point like this. So now on the up part, I'm going to be using the same dart intake I used by the side, half inch to the front center and 1 inch to the side, giving me a total of 1.5, and I'm going to connect this together again. So now I'll go ahead to insert my body measurement. My waist measurement divided by 4 is giving me 6.5. My total dart intake, I'll replace it at the side, which is 1.5. I'll go ahead to measure my under bust and I'll replace my dart intake as well. Go to my bust point and I'll measure my bust measurement. I'm going to measure what I have on my bust point at this point here. And I'll go ahead to connect these points together. So now we go to our armhole curve. To make your armhole curve, you still place your tape on your neck depth. And normally if I'm making my armhole depth, I use my shoulder measurement divided by 2. So I'll just go ahead to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2 on this point, the same way I normally do it. For where I'm going to connect it to, you'd have to measure your desired neck width. For my desired neck width, I'm using 11, which when divided by 2 is going to give me 5.5. So I'll mark 5.5 here, and I'll shift it back by the intake of this dart, which is 1.5 inches. So that when I take out this dart, it will not be short. So I'll just go ahead to connect my armhole depth. Next thing is to mark out your desired neck depth. So for my desired neck depth, I'll just come up 2 inches from my bust point. But before I go ahead to make my neck curve, I will just quickly close this dart here. To close a dart, you have to pinch up one line first. Then you go ahead to close it and you use your pins to pin it up. You don't need to pin up every part, just pin up this point so that you can make your neck curve. So you just go ahead to measure and reconfirm that this is up to your desired neck width, which is okay. Now you go ahead to make your sweetheart curve or any curve you want to, depending on the neck styling you desire. After you have done this now, you can just go ahead to remove your pin at this point. Or you can just go ahead to blend this part so that it is not pointed. I'll just go ahead to add my sewing allowance at the side, which I'm using 1.5 inches. I'll add it following the curve like so. Connect the armhole down to that point. So I'll go ahead to cut this out, and this will be for the front. So when I'm cutting this on my fabric, I'll only be adding half inch allowance to the centers like this, to the up as well, and to the down. For the side, I've already added my sewing allowance. So I'll keep this aside, adjust the paper, and we draft out the back immediately from this other side. So I'll just go ahead to extend my lines to the other point. So this will be my startup line and all my measurements will be starting after. So I'll go ahead to measure my bust span measurement divided by 2. Go ahead to connect these points together like this. I'll go ahead to insert my dart, and for your dart, your dart should stop 1 inch before your bust point, which is what I've just marked. So I'm marking half of an inch for both sides, which is a total of 1 inch for the back dart. And I'll connect this like this. So the next thing I want to do is to insert my measurements. And for the back armhole, I'll still place my tape on my desired neck depth, which is 5, and I'll go ahead and mark my armhole depth. For the back neck width, I'm going to be using 6 inches. So I'll connect this like this to get my armhole curve. I'll place my tape at the 5 inches on my startup line, and I'll measure my desired neck depth, of which I am using 9 inches. So I'll go ahead to connect this with a partial curve, the armhole point also. Now the next thing you are going to do, we are going to determine the width of your back lacing. I'm going to be using 2 inches. Kindly note that whatever you mark is going to be twice of it, because this pattern is like the half of it. Okay, so if you mark 2, be expecting 4 inches. So I'll go ahead to connect these 2 points together like so. So next I'll just go ahead to add my sewing allowance on the side. Okay, now it's a two-way thing. You can decide to cut open this point and divide it into 2, or you can just decide to pinch in your dart when you are sewing, which is a method I prefer, because I'll just catch my dart when I'm sewing it. I'll not cut it out. So I'll just go ahead to cut this out, but before I do, I'll signify this side as the neck and this side as the armhole, so I will not mistake this side for this side. So I'll go ahead to cut this out now. I'm going to be adding half of an inch sewing allowance everywhere aside from the side, because I have added my sewing allowance there. So I'm going to cut out my pattern on my fabric and the lining. But for the front, join fabric to fabric and lining to lining. Okay, so I have gone ahead to join the front pieces together, and what I did again was I went ahead to join my band. I'm using V-net for my band, but just in case you are not using V-net for your band, you can just attach the rope now. Okay, just turn from here to here. I'll turn the armhole, the neckline, and I'll turn it all around, keeping the band in between the lining as I sew. Then for the back part, I went ahead to attach a tiny band. This band is what we are going to be passing the rope through when it's coming from the front. So what I did was I cut out a band that is 1.5 inches wide, place it on fold, and I ironed it. So all I have to do is to place it on fold like this, and I will leave ½ inches away. Even for the front part, I left ½ inches away before fixing my band, so that I can use this part to turn the armhole. This ½ inch is for sewing allowance, so that the band does not get into the armhole when you are turning it. So I'll also leave ½ inches away from the armhole, and I'll go ahead to top stitch it. When you're top stitching it, you just need 0.5 inch width of the band. I simply made it longer so that I can easily hold it when I'm top stitching it. That's why I made it longer. So now I can go ahead to place the lining of the back part on the back, and I'll sew it all around.
Please, before you sew this all around, you must add paper stay on the neckline of both the lining and the main fabric for both the front and the back before you turn this with your lining. This is supposed to make it have a firm grip and not falling up from your chest.
With my dart, remember that I took 2 inches outward from the back center while I was cutting the opening at the back. So I'll go ahead to place my tape 2 inches outward like so, and I'll measure my bust span measurement divided by 2 plus ½ inch. The ½ inch is so that when I'm done sewing, I'll go back to my actual bust span measurement. I'll place the both of them together, and I'm going to clip the both sides of the dart. I'm going to go up from this point 6 inches, and I'll place it on fold on this my clip point. Place it on fold like that, and I'm going to be taking ½ inch on both sides as I connect my dart to the top. So then when I'm done connecting my dart, I'll join the front and the back pieces and shape the side.
After shaping the sides, I place the center of the upper bodice and my skirt part together, pin it up, and I'm going to sew it from the side to the other side. And because of the lacing intake, it will not be equal with your skirt part, so I'll just go ahead to sew it from the start to the other end.
Take note of this part, because if I do not show you this part, you might feel like you did not sew it well or yours did not come out right. Now for the lacing technique, you are not expected to use this band that started from the shoulder. All I did was pass it through the joint I added here. I'm not expected to use it to continue your lacing. You can see that when I bend it like this, you can see that the neck is altered. The neck is no more standing like this. So do not use this your lacing band to continue the lacing all through. No, it will make your neckline not to be what you drafted. What I did with my band, I took it to the front like this, and I made a twist out of it. So you make a twist out of it by bringing it in and out of this.
Now it's left to just give it a fancy tie, either a bow tie or just make any fancy tie you want, but just tie it up to be firm and it doesn't lose. That's it.
If you don't want to use a band like this, okay,
you go ahead to cut a band, and for the band, whatever you use as your neck depth, you multiply it by 2 and you add 1 inch for sewing allowance, and that sewing allowance must be exhausted when you are joining the band to the back and to the front. And take note, you are joining your band before you turn the lining for both the back and the front, because you expect to have a very neat finish when you are done.